thank you everyone who was in attendance. And also thank you for Jen's helping me lunch.
Would anyone like anything else?
There's three. Yeah, those who have. Anyway, that's all good. This meeting will be audio recorded, and those in attendance should refrain from making any defamatory statements. There are to be no other recordings of this meeting without prior authorisation of the committee. Are there any apologies? Because you're Graham Wilson.
I am indeed.
Indeed. Welcome to our infrastructure meeting. I don't know whether you've been here before, but you're in a different role. I saw you anyway.
Thank you.
Welcome to our infrastructure meeting. It's always very, I think, very informative, well attended, and I thank you for your report, to your input. Any apologies?
I'm not at all aware.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor
Councillor apparently is central apology.
Okay, move and a seconder, please.
Seconded.
All in favour, please say aye. Against, I think the ayes have it. Declarations of interest, do we have any? Noted.
Carry.
Public participation. Nil. Business items, so we might move on to the business items. On page 2, ISC 5.1, works program. Who's going to take that, Phil?
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So highlights from Water and Sewer World this month. So with our IWCM, we have the funding deed, which I talked about before. We had a kick-off meeting with representatives from DeFi and Public Works on the 20th of April to go through the project scope in detail in the program. There was another little subcomponent that sort of came out of that, the water modelling. But those changes, essentially, if we proceed, a lot of it's optional, will sort of come through as we go through the process. That funding ratio is the same, so DeFi will pay for 60% of that and we'll cover 40%. And then PWA issued the program, so that project's essentially up and running. The drinking water risk assessment workshop, so that report was sent through to health and we haven't received anything in that regard. I won't get a comment on that report as yet, and we're still working through that report ourselves. So there's not much to update there at this point in time. The UV chlorination and fluoride. So we're still putting together or finalising the tech specs and the design and contract tender for that work. So there's a bit of extra work that we were doing with H2O to get that right. And we have a workshop with H2O for the 25th of May, so later this month, to finalise that, then we can go to market. The Hunter River intake improvements, so Saw kind of finished all the works down there. It looks quite good. And we're just finalising the tender to do the improvement works down there at that station as well. So the team's working on that. And with our drought management and emergency response plan, so the water restrictions moved down for Marungai, Scone and Aberdeen on the 3rd of May, so now level 1 across the whole shire. Instead of Singleton and Muswellbrook. We plan to stay there, or 3 councils plan to essentially stay there until we finish the new plan, which we had to get some traction on. So no, it's a bit slow going. So I have a meeting with Muswellbrook and Singleton next week on a meeting, so that's on the agenda and we'll hopefully get a bit more movement in that space. And other minor items, so we got our dam safety audit report back on Marungai Dam. So even though it's not a big dam, it still has to go through the same process for dam safety in New South Wales. So there's a bunch of items in there that we need to address. From memory, actually, I think it was like seven that we need to address by November this year, and then another 9.
7 by 3 months. That's just by July, and the other 9 support is still just by November.
Sure. A lot of those are
structural?
No, most of them are gaps in our documentation and process and those sort of items. So it shouldn't be too problematic to get that sorted.
Is it still being used in conjunction with So in other words, it lessens the amount of water used. by the person. Yeah, fine.
Yeah, Murrumbidgee is currently being supplied by the dam and the electric trip plant at the moment.
Right, okay.
So the other gaps are, just, 7, gaps we're talking about, operation and maintenance plan for the dam. And the other 9 gaps we are talking about the emergency response management plan.
So no structural capital changes or anything.
Yeah, for years anyway, and at the time, I haven't probably put it on years ago.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, it's a fairly low risk facility overall. We've got any questions for that? We'll move to the attachment.
Any questions or comments? Okay, we'll turn over to page 6.
Just let you guys ask questions.
Yeah, number 3, the outcome of community consultation. Have we had any more than what we had from last time, or is that just an ongoing thing?
No, that's ongoing. So we will be due to go back for further consultations soon. So there hasn't been any further update.
And cashless? How many details on this card have got?
They did concept and doing detail.
Are they? All right.
So I am putting together a more comprehensive report on cashless. That'll go to the council meeting, and that'll also be, I guess, a summary of the state of that project that I have on hand. We have that deep-dive session with the community next week.
Okay, yeah, I was going to suggest that will be probably a hot topic, and if we have some answers or something there, know we were up to, I think that would be very beneficial.
That's it.
I think we'll need to be very careful about what we commit to with the community, because we'll still be in the process of getting the final design, and we don't have funding. So I think we need to be very upfront with the community about what the potential cost will be.
That's right.
Because I think it's unaffordable at present. Without funding, it's unaffordable.
But I've been saying the same thing. I agree with that, but I think that at least we'll do more certainty. So this is where we're at. This is what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And if that can be done, I think it would be worthwhile. Okay, any further questions on page 6? If not, we'll turn over to page 7. Point 25, the new sewer pump and mains before airport cruising. That was, there has been some questions and criticism regarding that, but that was really something that had to happen, wasn't it?
Yeah, to facilitate the new infrastructure there.
Yeah. Well, then, especially too when the new Woolworths museum came forward, those pipes, yes, we use a lot more. Okay. Any questions on page 7? We'll just move to page 8.
On page 8, I'll just point out that the sewer pump station at Marymore has been finished. The site looks far better than what it did before.
I think I brought this up earlier, and the last time the pressure drops in when there's a blackout in Collins Street. Has that generator been and the hookup, has it been organised so it can just, once the scheduled blackout, that can be hooked up without any problem? In other words, it's not looking for a plug or something.
But through the chair, yes, the intention is that we will have that in place for a planned shutdown.
Yeah.
Obviously, it won't be in place for unplanned interruptions.
No.
But typically, all that happens there is that there's only a handful of towers that will just go from normal pressure to low pressure. So it's not like the water shuts off completely. But we're also looking at sort of longer term plans to feed that area as part of the high zone for the sanitary reservoir. So there'll be a bit of planning that will need to do there. It might have to be a bigger reservoir at the cemetery and some pipe work and some other work. So we
Yeah,
do that.
because actually there's two more houses going. I didn't notice that there was another block of land sold there alongside another two. So that block of land that's on the furthest on the east, it's very much overgrown. Is that owned by council or is it owned by someone private? Because you did a great job on the other section when you graded back, Sam. You graded that back. That was well received, but it was really well done. Thank you for that. But the block of land that's at the end of that street, on the eastern side of the new houses there, is that a privately owned block or is it still owned by council? Like Collins Street is owned by council.
Through the chair, I have to take that on notice. I don't know
Would you
whether it is
mind?
or
Because it is overgrown, and there's a house now built right up onto the boundary. So
Yeah, we might talk about that after that. I'll just confirm which.
Yeah.
Block it is. Yeah,
okay. Thank you. Oh, page 8. Any further question on page 8? Not, we'll turn over to page 9.
Through Mr. Chair, Fiddle 47 Gundy Water. When do we actually go and talk to the community about that? How far through do we go before we?
It's a bit of a funny one. We can go talk now. The intention was to have a very high level sort of base consultation. Is there sort of interest for us to proceed any further? So the ADW Johnston has sort of done their work in terms of concept designs to reticulation. So it's really something that we can push forward and put those feelers out when.
I think it's important that before we go too far and get too deep, get the feedback what they want.
Yeah.
Because it may be very well received because it was often years ago, which they declined because they had to pay. But things may have improved out there since the drought and everyone's
Yeah, it's probably the wrong
water
time
issues.
to ask that question.
Well, probably not because Wallace in their memory bank of how hard it was from the drought. I'm sure they may. I'm just saying before we get too deep, I'd like to see a bit of community consultation.
No, we can definitely move forward with that. Our priority was always on the schemes that we had the funding for.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we can definitely do that.
That.
Okay. Further questions on that? We'll move to page 10. Point 48, the grant funding is not available for the New Book scheme. So where are we up to? Is this just concept?
Similar to Gumby, in the same boat.
Okay.
So if we go ahead, we probably push that consultation at the same stage.
Right. Any further questions or comments? If not, I'll ask for a move on the second for ISC 5.1.
Second.
Any dissension? Recommendation was passed. Right, turn over now to page 11. It's page 11, Works Program. Infrastructure, ISC 5.2. Sam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. So, as you can see there, regional road projects that we've got currently underway is the 3 on Bunnan Road and our road safety program, which includes the guardrail and shoulder widening. Our local roads is Tollong Road Rehabilitation, Waverley Road, Waverley Street and Beddington Street footpaths. There's a bit of a breakdown in there where the projects are at. So the Car Springs project, it's tracking okay. This recent wet weather will have put a bit of a delay on our progress there, but hopefully we can still bring it in by the end of the financial year. The top section, Owens Gap, we're tracking pretty well there as well. The next stage of that is actually to start working on the pavement. Yeah, and then we've got the section in the middle, which will construction will follow the stage 1 and 3. The road safety program, as I said, that's the guardrail, that's tracking. You would have seen a lot of new guardrail put up in the last month or so. Predominantly, most of those works have been undertaken on Bunnan Road, but the other Gundy Road, Willow Tree Road will get some attention as well.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Sam, on that Hunter Road, I see a fair bit's done, but they must have gone away, haven't they? A lot more to be done by all of the marks on the road.
Through the chair, yeah, they're about halfway through their program.
So they go back out somewhere and they come back.
Yeah, well, they come and go. So they're sort of doing this job in between other jobs as well.
That's right.
Yep.
The community don't understand. They believe it's us, you see. They say, well, yeah, they're out there and then they're gone and they come back. But that's just that business. That's the way they operate.
Yeah. So their priority is to RMS to fill their obligations with their RMS contract. So they sort of fill in with us in between. Yep. Tullang Road, it's tracking along okay as well. But yeah, wet weather again has delayed us there. And Waverley Street, all that's left to do up there is the sealing of the pavement. We've just got to wait for the sealing crew to come in to be able to do that. Bedding Street's tracking okay. All the path is down, so the new curb and the footpath is complete. So we've just got to do some cold mix, some street furniture, and potentially some signage out there. And then we'll see where we go from there.
I think it's been very well received too, and also the service. Although there's some concern, it's a non-slip service, and one of the things that we went for, we weren't going to have that shiny, very shiny service of some of the other ones around Hyundai there that had what they were called anyway. It was very, very slippery, but that service, the comment that I've heard, well, yeah, it's good. It's a good service. You've done well, Sam, and also to navigate all of the, shall I say, the concerns that were raised. So you've done well. Well done.
Guess we can move into the works delivery grant funded works update. If you've got any questions, I can answer them as we work through it.
Okay, it's on page 22. Any questions or comments on page 22? Not, we shall turn over. Oh, the Rosedale complex, the canteen, etc. There's a grandstand to go there too, wasn't there?
No, through chair, no.
Okay. Okay, I was through there a week ago and it's yeah. All right, turn over page 23. And point 10, I see the concrete gone down to the driver revolve.
Went down Monday. Yeah, good.
Yeah, I haven't been far. Okay, that's good. And so the actual unit itself is going to be pre-made and struck up, is that right?
Correct.
I've also noted that the two bus shelters have been erected at Merrywalk. So good on you.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Thank you, Jeffrey. I'm looking at you. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Page 24. Any concerns or questions on page 24? Otherwise, let's turn the page. It's all good news.
Just, Mr. Chair, 17.
Yep.
Sam and a few of us down there, when was that? Sam, last Saturday week? for the opening. We got a lot of good feedback. And, yeah, the way you guys handled that was good, which I didn't acknowledge you that day either. I'm sorry about that, but, no, they're all very happy with that. Another great project.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, any further questions or comments on those matters? I'll ask for a mover and a seconder, please.
Second.
Any dissent? There being no dissent, the recommendation is passed. I turn over to page 34. Have a work update. Philip, you had the floor.
I'll do a switch past to, I'm not
Oh,
sure.
Greg McDonald.
Chris,
Well, Greg, you see you.
Chris is here.
Chris, Mr. Chair, 27. Chair, did you do 27?
I think we're up to page 27 strategic projects for Chris.
I
think, yeah, that's-
Government.
I did.
Now that Chris off of that.
Get better major projects.
Okay, Chris, you have the floor. My apologies.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Work through the projects here, Untitled Bridge replacement, just the fencing to be finished off. It may be finished by now, it was started last week. And then we'll just be chasing in a couple of invoices to close that project out. We've had the contract closeout meeting with the contractors. And so that project is about to be closed.
On budget too, Mr. Chair.
Yes, that is good.
Very impressive.
It is impressive indeed.
Camera bridge replacement. The tenders were out within the last month and actually closed last week on Tuesday the 4th, which is after I've written this report. So we're in the process of assessing the tenders, and the report will be to the May council meeting. The assessment reports. Murnau Brook Road and Hunter Road. I'll speak to those together because they're the same, they're identical on the timeline. We're treating them together. The tender was awarded and the contract kickoff meeting happened last week. And the site meeting will happen next week on Monday with the design. That's for the design of Murnau Road and Hunter Road. Now, just note that we have funding for Murnau Road design and construction, but we don't have sufficient funding for Hunter Road to do the construction. So at this stage, we're just doing the design and hunting for more. Maranda Memorial Gates, the contractor is mobilising on Thursday. Fences will go up around the site and works will start. They'll start by repairing the headstock, and before they move it, and then start disassembly. So work should happen on that fairly quickly once they start. The independent living units at Morundo, I should pass over to Graham to comment on this because he's actually been managing this.
Thank you, Graham.
Mr. Chair, the concrete slab for the units went down yesterday, and we're looking forward.
I guess the main thing is it started. It's been a long process, however.
It has, there's a few problems, but it has started.
So, which is good news.
Yes. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, are there any questions on any of those projects?
Questions or comments? There being none, I'll ask for a mover and a seconder, please. Any dissent? There being no dissent, the resolution is passed. Carried. Okay, now we'll turn over to page 34. Capital Works update. Okay, Philip, on the
Oh.
Okay. Well, we all got a sheet. Now I have a sheet. So everyone else got a sheet. All good. Item 1 to 49. Hmm?
100%.
Okay, do we have any questions or comments on those items listed? That's not here, but I think I just noticed on the going place, the hospital is now full, which is good news for us. And no comments on page 2, questions? Turn over to page 3. Items 50 to 99.
Just one, Mr. Chair, 87 caravan camping. Say, rate that the general manager, myself, and some met being at the Scone Rest Area Park during the week, and surveyors will be surveying it, and approximately 2 months.
Yeah, probably 2 months to get the survey completed and then lodged. Then there's a process of gazettal, but 3 months maximum, we believe, before we can start operational.
Good news.
Yes, very pleased he's been there, especially. Yeah, good, well done. Thank you for all those involved. Okay. We'll turn over to page 4 then. Any questions or comments there? Line items 100 to 149.
Quick one there, Mr. Chair, sale yards. I know the budget's struggling, but I believe the outcome of that is positive. A lot of good comments coming back. Speckle Park sale was held there. Another special sale. We had 2 visits from outside shies. I think they were Gunnedah and Grafton, I believe. And that showed a lot of positives. I feel confident we'll come out at the end of that one. With cattle numbers gradually rising.
I think that's right. It's a very good facility. Thank you. Okay, no comments or questions on that. Turn over to page 5, please. Line items 150 to 198. 166, Sam, total quarry operations. Does that include QN? Was there any, how did we go with that QN? I think DA or something going. Is that right?
Through the chair, yeah, still in progress.
Still in progress.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And also the cracker, I call it the cracker, but anyway, was there going to be one there to put into QN? I thought there was.
Oh, crusher, yep,
Yeah.
yes, yeah, currently underway.
Is that going to be owned by council or is it a contract?
The contractor's coming to do the crushing works.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
It seems to make a much better type of
Product.
material.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Now this the base line item 182, the bow RFS shed, that went through council. So the change in the location, yeah, that's all progressing.
Yeah, survey work's progressing. We should have things in that element with it before it retires. So that and the government shed essentially progressing.
That's good. Thank you. All right. Any further questions on page 5? We'll just turn over and go to page 6, 199 to 246. The bottom museum, line item 200, bottom museum, hot water system. And the painting, was that just listed as a maintenance issue?
That's a take on mobile, we presume. So
We'll take on those.
Yeah, okay. So I think that's where the cars go from for the non-essential emergency cars. Anyway, just on that 238 Merrill Showground toilet block, what was that? Was that to do with that extra wall that they put up there outside the disabled block, was it?
Through the chair, yes,
That's it.
that's correct.
Right. Well, it's very good. That's all. It just finished that off really well. Okay. No further questions. I'll turn over to page 7, 247 to 291. Um, 264 Merrill Pool painting. There was some other maintenance work that would be put in there. But however, there was a concern, I think, regarding the leakage of the pool. Is that?
That was being looked at in next year's budget, I believe. It wasn't part of this year's current budget. No, so I believe that was part of the next year's budget program to look at those issues. Do you want to comment on that further, Sam? Or?
Yeah, through Chair. Yeah, there's a couple of valves there that are leaking. However, we're not going to stop all the water leaks in our pools. There'll be some sort of leakage. They're aged, and it's just unfortunately common with pools of that
My
age.
understanding that they were actually in 3 sections. Was that right?
The pools are in 3 sections.
They were built in 3 sections. Now that may not be correct, and I may be
Oh, but possibly is right, but you do have your like a balance tank around the outside of the pool, and then you've got your main balance tank at the end of the pool. So that might be your 3 different
I see.
sections that you're talking about. You've got your main pool, balance tank, and your storage tank.
So the issue really is that the amount of water that's coming out of my understanding was coming out of the joins. Is that right? Or is it
As far as I understand it, we corrected that before we sealed, painted the pool earlier in the year. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, look, that's good. Thank you. All right. Any further questions on page 7? Turn over to page 8, please.
One, Jeffrey, the new bridge, 14 bridges that we've got funding for, they started to do the bore testing, have they, around some of those?
Yeah, we're going right through and doing geotech on the whole,
Yeah, right.
15 structures, and we've got a site survey cut of half of those done. So we're keeping around, going around the rest of the site surveys, we're doing hydro work done all the way calcs. And I think getting the environmental impact assessment area started now in a couple of weeks. Hopefully then we're going to, we had 6 bridges in our first round, which was one in Rundle in the 5 up Walls Creek, 5 k's away, there's another 3. So hopefully we can get those in group 1. They're all the same size, 12 metres. Walls Creek 1 may be a little bit bigger than what we originally proposed. We're just waiting to get the pricing and trying to fund it out of our current program. And then the other bridges we'll have, I think we have 8 left of ours, 5 of ours. 5 left of our bridges, which includes Dartbrook, and we're going to have a memorandum of understanding with Muswell Shire Council, so they've got 1 to do, so we'll include theirs in our tender process. So hopefully they'll get a lower price with our 6 bridges.
No, right.
No, it's not all going
So,
to
that's down in tested yesterday, so
Yeah.
the phone rings, they all get excited. They
Oh, yeah.
think it's going to be built now.
Well, I think we're going out to tender July. For the first night. And then November, December, we group 2 structures and we finish by 2023.
The second stage.
Yeah, the whole lot. Great day. Site council. No bridge crew, no timber bridges.
Very
And,
good.
Jeff, how do you get on with the idle road one? Is there- Because it's on a bend and it's sort of missed bend.
Yeah, I think at this stage-
Could that be realigned?
Well, we had a look at that and the cost of realigning, I think we've got pretty good our plans today. But there's a fair bit of realignment there. We do think that's the best location at this stage. It's 90 degrees to the flow, it's not on the fuel and all that. So. And I know it's low use, it's not a low use rate, but it's sealed, so we don't have to do what it is.
And
Current road reserve.
will it be, well, there's a house just on the western side too. Will it be,
Dual lane, single lane?
dual lane or single lane?
Dual lane. At the moment, it's a single lane, so there's level of service improvement there. There's money to do with it because it's on the fence, I think we made it dual lane. Same as we made Cameron Bridge dual lane.
Yeah.
That'll improve it, I mean, it's not.
That's a good improvement. No,
Yeah.
having a dual lane instead of a single lane,
Yeah.
that's a good improvement.
They're paying for that.
Yeah, right, and we've got funding to do a dual lane.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, we have, yeah, we'd be worried about the fact that we're replacing 400 bridges in stage, I think 600 bridges in stage 1. We're really worried about the saturation of going to the market, you know, so there's only so many bridge builders, so saturation, so obviously we're expecting the cost might go up a little bit. If that's the case, we have a fallback, you know, we may be able to go. No one thought we had saturation, especially in the northern part of the Shire, of the state, was up grafted upwards, or whatever. 80% of these bridges. Unless you can actually, like a lot of councils down the south, they're only buying the pieces because they like to build their own structures.
all
Yeah, which is great. So they can just purchase the decks, purchase the stocks, purchase the piles, buy the piles and build the rest themselves. Fortunately, we lost that when we lost the bridge crew. I'm in the vein, you know, these guys are out for years, can't replace.
Yes, expertise too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, look, thanks for that anyway. It is happy days on that one. Okay, we'll turn over to page 9, please. 340 to 383. The line item, the 341 and 340 down to 343. 341, you said we haven't got Hunter Road. We haven't got the Sunny, the early work with that. Barrington Road, Forest Road. How are we going with that? That's funded?
Barrington, Forest Road, we think, well, we've got funding, we've got $4.7 million, which is great. We've left the roads 11K, we may have funding for stage 2, which is top percent. That's what was announced. We've got a bit of an error in the.
There's a bit of an anomaly. We made applications for a number of sections of that road. It appears that as they've gone through funding allocation, they've been looking for a figure roughly about 4.7 million to top out the actual allocation. They found our project at 4.7 and they've said, congratulations, you've got it. But it's the stage 2. It's the second 5 kilometres, not the first 5 kilometres or thereabouts. Even though we put both of them in, they've chosen to give us the funding for the second part before the first part. So we're having discussions with them saying, look, logically, you'd be better off giving us the money for the first part, just call it part phase 1 or stage 1. You'd think that'd be an easy process. It appears it's become a bit of a nightmare, but Jeff and Transport for New South Wales are all across it. We're trying to get it sorted out. Transport understands the issue. They're trying to do it on our behalf as well. But what we thought would be a simple swap of one job to another, proving to be a little bit more complex.
Yeah, the total funding for stage 1 was 4.9, and we got 4.7 for stage 2. But the total project cost for stage 1 is 6.2. That's the finance to balance the 2 million coming out plus stage funds. But the difference between the funding we've allocated 4749 is not going to work. Just follow that up. They just change the description of what we do.
Through the chair, we want to go to market and have a design for those sections of line.
Yeah. All right. Well, that could be another happy day too. Okay. Thank you. Any further comment? I did have a question, and this might fill in 356, number 1 oval. What was the operator, something that you did on a number 1 oval? Sam, could you fill me in on that, please?
Sorry, Chair, what number was it?
356.
356. Yeah.
356.
Okay.
Not much of that, really,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it was a question, but anyway, would that include some of the broken rails on that around the outside? There's probably only, I don't know, 3 or 4 that are broken. It wouldn't cost very much to replace those.
That would be under maintenance.
Would it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Those 356 is the bus shelters, the 2 bus shelters.
Oh, I see, right. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's-
yeah, right. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
1 and 2. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was getting
Yeah.
getting mixed up. Yeah, yeah. My fault. Yeah. Okay. All righty. Page 9. Over to page 10, please. The other caravan parks are getting to work out like Merrill is. I tell you what, that's important. It's really good to go past and find so many caravans in there, as well as in the other parts of the town too. Okay, any questions on page 10? Comments? I shall ask the mover and seconder, please.
Move it.
I'll second it. Any dissent? Dissent. Okay, moving on to page 40. ISC 5.5. You have the floor.
Yeah. So an update on the villages and Murray and Res. I'll do them in 2 parts. I'll do the villages first. Not much has happened in the last month. Some communication has been sent to DPI Water about the proposed rural type supply system. People have been on leave or holidays or changing jobs or whatever, we can't seem to get a reply from them. So, yeah, we're sort of locked in that for the last month. We haven't been able to get back to them. We want to just update them on where we're up to with the project to make sure they're on board as well with the rural supply system that we're proposing before we move further. Because if they say no, then well, we've got to stop and prop and reconsider. But, so that's where that's up to. Once we get the approvals from them, then we'll go down through the other things of coming up with a defined footprint design of where we're going to put it within the budget that we've got. Bring that to this meeting, and then go out for community consultation and start getting tenders together to get it close. Any questions on the villages? Okay, Murray Res. Can't claim credit for this. Gavin McKenzie's been managing this project the whole way. The reservoir is complete. The stairs, access stairs, and yeah, roof's on, access stairs are in, the handrails are around the top. All the meters are in, the depth gauges are in place and working. It's full of water, it's tested, and the plan was to lower the water level to about the same height as the original reservoir, and then cut it in wide to the system. And then slowly let it settle in and then slowly raise the water level and see if that finds any weaknesses in the system, rather than put it in at full pressure and potentially have multiple failures in the old pipe loop throughout the village, throughout Marana. So yeah, we'll put it in at the same level, so with the same pressure that the system's seen before, is the same level as the old res, and then gradually work with the water and slowly introduce it like that. 10, 20 repairs that may be needed. So a really sound strategy there.
That's a good. Mr. General Manager, we seem to have quite a few good outcomes here. The council is being able to do.
I'm sorry for that, we'll correct it immediately.
What about trying to get some of these things out to the community?
Yeah, look,
some of these things.
I think you're right.
That's great.
I think we just wanted to make sure that we were, got our feet under ourselves and were steadily delivering before we start blowing our trumpet too loud. But
I agree with that.
I think staff are doing a fantastic job on some of these projects, and happy to promote some of these as and when we can.
Through the chair on this one, we decided we may have to delay the official opening until we have a new state member, because it was part state funded in this project. So.
But that's right. But look, I mean, basically, when we moved up till now, there's been some pretty good outcomes. And I just think that staff should be given full credit.
Things have to turn. Turn the page.
Move on. 358, I do know that I was quite hard.
I thought you want to miss that page.
I set up till now. Okay, that's really good. Thank you, Chris. ISC 5.5, move on the second, please.
Second.
Any dissent? Being no dissent, the recommendation is carried. Now we turn over to page 45, and we probably just know we can read through all that and say, well, I know all about that. However, Jeff, you have the
I
floor.
was going to pass it to Gavin.
Or Gavin.
Project
Okay,
going
Gavin.
on, but he was away this week. I wrote a few things down. Gavin will go through at length. I think Gavin might want to start. Yeah, activity undertaken last month. Might be the place to start. We've got the photographs. I think
We'll do that towards the end. So, thank you, Mr. Chair. GHD continuing to work on their design. They completed their LiDAR survey, which is the drainage below. They got all that information. I think there was a couple of million points. So they use that to finalise their third option. We're expecting the third option bid next week, about the 18th. So we'll get that in and obviously send it on to the project control group and Infrastructure New South Wales, Transport New South Wales and Public Works to put comments on, and we'll get back to them following that. I'll just ask Karen to bring up the photos. So these are the photos in the last 3 months. Not that one, the middle one, I think.
That one?
No,
Middle one.
Middle one.
So that's a photo taken late March
of this year.
of this year, so 2021. And if you go to the left one, yep, that's a month later in April. So in that month period, it's roughly dropped 300 mil and open up in some areas up to half a metre and roughly a metre deep in some areas. And then the third photo, which was taken last week, you can see that's dropped further again. So you're looking at roughly 500 to 600 mil at the steepest drop, quite wide, getting closer to 600 to 700 mil. And in some areas, we could put a tape down metre and a half a bit further. So this is essentially why the road is closed. And you can see there on the bottom of that photo, the cracking now goes across the entire road and onto the shoulder on the cut side, on the actual cutting side in the hill. So this is why it's closed. We can't allow traffic to travel over that.
And also, this is it's like a spoon, yes. This is the top half of the circle, and obviously the bottom half. So that would be the length of that farther there would be 100 metres down.
Yeah, 80 to 100 metres.
And I know for a fact that location is 800 metres to the top. And the top of the road is that little saddle there just above the sign. So it's about a K of road here that we're looking at this option pretty closely to get it right for design. This is filled.
Just to go further, we did do a trench in roughly this location during the early geotechnical investigations. and we dug down roughly 3 metres, which is as far as the excavator could reach at that time on site, and we didn't find natural surface. So there is potential, so where those cracks are currently, they could slip away and have a void of 3 metres. So this is essentially why it's closed. This is the main area that needs to be for it to be closed.
So, Mr. Chair, Gavin, can I have some of those photos? Because a lot of people have said to me, as the mayor, why have you pushed towards keeping that road open? I said, because a lot smarter people than me have made suggestions and recommendations to us. That will just prove the point.
Well, that one there is different than all the other areas. When we had the road open, those cracks didn't cross the centre line, as I showed before. This is the only area, this is the area with the large amount of filling. And once it crossed the centre line, we said close it. It came a metre to the side of the centre line. And we can put a tape down there now, we're in the line post.
So, can I suggest that we take some of these photos with us when we go to Castles of Merrywell?
Yes.
Just to have in the file, in case it's been asked.
I mean,
But
just
the ones,
like
the earlier ones prove the point. First one you showed, then the second one, and then the third one. Did you get them right down there? I mean, you can't argue against that.
we have 1, 2, 3, up to 10 of each, and you'll see the difference from that to that to that. Slow moving.
Through the chair, it should also be remembered, we haven't had a lot of rain in the last 3 months.
We get a lot of rain in that.
Yeah, this is
See what
just,
happens.
this is just occurring just on the natural weight of what's been put there. And this was our concern and the geotechnical was concerned. This is moving quite rapidly now. So if someone was having to be driving across that and it did go at once, it's a massive risk for life, and that's why it was closed.
We don't have these to pass on to the politicians that candidates we've been meeting.
Yeah, I only saw this one again for the first time this morning.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
So through the chair again, we did also have a community meeting on the 21st of April. 2 sessions, one an afternoon and an evening session. I think we had about 10 and 12 each session. I think it was reasonably well received, and there was a few questions, and I think the community is starting to understand the gravity of the site and how dangerous it is. It can actually be.
I'd suggest to you that the next community, as the mayor has said, you need to have those from the starting down to where it is today. Just, you really can't argue against that.
This is the beauty of this design and the design process we're going through with GH2, option 1, 2, then we get a lot of option 3, which is going to be something we can't deal with this amount of field. We haven't got enough money to deal with the amount of field, so probably been a cutting in in other areas we might be able to deal with a bit of less field with retaining walls kind of structures along the field bank, so we can stabilise that. So it's a combination of both. Very tricky and very difficult. That's why we really need some really smart geotech guys and design guys to deal with this, more so to get the cost down at the end of the day. So that's why we've got the constructors out there, Gareth Collins for another one tomorrow, maybe we'll get another couple. The whole idea is we want this road open and we want to be able to build it. We're going to be able to build it the cheapest we can get. Otherwise, we'll blow out really bad.
The last part, as Jeff touched on as well, expression of interest for the construction tender. We were going to close it last week, but we only had one tender mandatory meeting, so it's been extended another 3 weeks with another site meeting tomorrow.
We think that was because we didn't have enough info there for them. They might have just thought it was a $500,000 job or $1 million job. But we're going to, when you put in a figure like an R3 or an R4, that indicates that they need to be pretty qualified to work on the highways for $4 or $5 million, So that's the extent of this job. So it might attract a few others.
Maybe a little shy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, but that's an R5 for working on any other job.
Yes.
Anyway, we're still working for it. We can do it.
So we can hear, we'll have the option through to say some.
There's a solution.
Right. Any comments or questions regarding IC 5.6? If not, I'll call for a mover and a seconder. I have a seconder.
You can have it.
All right. It's on, that's the whole point. Any dissension? Speak now, please. No dissension, we accept the recommendation. I'd turn over now. Page 51, IC 5.7. Alternatives to glyphosate trial. Committee received the report and note the information. Sam, you have the floor.
Thank you. So this trial come about basically because the workers' union pushed for an alternative to glyphosate. So we undertook the trial. We found 3 alternative products that didn't contain glyphosate. We tried these 3 products out in the field, and unfortunately we didn't have a lot of success with them. We didn't get the same strike as we do with glyphosate. In some of the products, it was actually more detrimental to staff health. They were required to wear more PPE. So basically, I guess with the trial that was undertaken, those 3 products, not one of those products were any safer, we believe, than using glyphosate. I'd add to that glyphosate's not banned. Australian Pest and Veterinary Medicines is still on their approved list. Safe Work, it's on their approved list, and Transport New South Wales, it's still on their list as a recommended product to use. So yeah, after review, I guess where we're at is that we'll continue to use Roundup/glyphosate in a safe manner. However, we'll monitor it, and if there's any recommendations coming from any industry specialist, we'll take that on board and action if required.
I think also that we need to accentuate the fact that having protective clothing and using it as per label.
Correct.
The direction that was given in America was not being used as per label.
So
And, one of the, it's not probably known, but one of the alternatives to glyphosate is I think it's picloram. It's a savage chemical. You've got to be careful. I don't think if it hasn't been used there, you wouldn't want to use it. I wouldn't recommend anybody use it by hand. It's a very savage chemical.
well, that's one of the chemicals that we trialled there, that weed terminator.
Yeah.
You could actually see the insects and bugs dying as you sprayed it. So I don't know that was very environmentally safe product to be using.
Like DDT, it's a great chemical. Killed everything. Because it didn't have any natural presence. And wonder why a little bit later on that all the problems came back in.
So, Mr. Chair, Sam, we still got the report from Doug Campbell from Up Under Weeds Authority that he sent us originally.
Yeah, I did. I got one from the LOS too.
Yeah, well, it'd be nice to probably put that in the business paper attached to it. He gave it from Up Under Weeds Authority.
Okay.
Report on, Doug Campbell did. We certainly had it. So I'm just thinking you probably will get a little bit of repercussions on that. It might be worth having a report.
Yep, I'm not aware of that report.
Yeah,
but
you might
we'll
find it somewhere. If
Yep.
not, we can always get it from Doug anyway.
Yep.
Thank you.
On page 60, soil conditioner, skin corrosion, category 2 skin sensitized, category 1 serious eye damage, category 1 aspiration hazard, category 1 may be fatal to swallow and airway. And that's the thing, if you just, now that is a little passive.
Yeah, through the chair, I think that's the point, is that it's not to say that there's no risk in glyphosate, it's just that the alternatives are not on balance.
The risks are very, very low, provided it's used.
And there's
as it was designed.
Yeah, so basically in the well, part of the statement there is that all products are used in accordance with Australian standards, are using the correct application rates and the correct PPE. Yeah, and all staff are certified in the use of chemical.
I was just about to add, you probably add that too, you're supposed to have a chemical certificate and the way to use that chemical,
Yeah, so,
which probably somewhere they haven't got them.
yeah, so that's all
Anyway,
in that report as well.
They all have to be Chem Cert 3 anyway.
Yes.
Perhaps they're really high because if you're transporting chemicals, you have to have a higher.
The volume of chemicals that we transport doesn't warrant that. We generally get it taken to store, and then if we take any out of the store, it's only like a 20 litre drum. Yes, and yeah, correct. We've got spray sheets that we, so we know what where we sprayed, what the spray weight rates were, wind conditions, all that. It's all recorded on application. Yep.
That's right. That's mandatory. Yeah. All right. ISC 5.7. We're going to move in a second. I'm happy to move from the chair.
Second.
Any dissension? Being no dissension, the resolution recommendation is carried. Turn over to page 61. Answer the councillor's questions. I'm happy with my questions too that I had earmarked. I know that they already started and the this is very, very good.
Happy?
Page 12, Philip, you answered that for me and it's really good outcome. On page, question 13.
Can I go into one more?
You certainly can.
Number 2 of mine.
Yep.
It's supposed to be the person who was doing it was in number 13, not in number 18, and I went to number 18, and the person wasn't very happy about it at all.
Oh, I hadn't heard that one. Well,
Yeah, the person who reported it to me, she said they went to the wrong one, and he was up in arms when I went in, but they went to number 18 instead of number 13.
okay, I'll follow that up for you.
You're happy with question 2 on page 65, Morris? Morale Street Causeway.
Well, that's all we can do. It's disappointing, but
Yeah. Okay. We cannot really answer Councillor Abbott's questions and see whether she is happy with them, but how do we go about that?
Oh, they're reported there.
reports there,
She can look
Bring
at that.
them up. Okay.
Councillor
Well,
Byrne,
we need,
sign.
yeah, that's right, Councillor. Okay, so I still need to move in a second.
Move.
please.
Second,
Second. Any dissension? No. Carried. We'll move down to councillor questions. Do we have any councillor questions? Mr Mayor.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of updates. I actually met with a lady the other day and with the nursery. A report going up to the next council meeting, re the tidy towns.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just to feed us in, or do you want to fill in just for the council meeting when it's going to come up on the report?
Yeah,
Briefly.
through the chair. So it was essentially approached by Lynn and Linda. I think Lynn was
Single.
from Singleton, and Linda was the local representative who wants to undertake a similar, I guess, scheme in this shire as what operates in Singleton. So essentially they'll work as a coordination of various different community groups and other organisations that might want to do tidy town related activities.
Anything from, maintaining a certain local park or a street, or, could be town-wide, but not under their own group. But essentially they would then coordinate those efforts across the entire Shire, and then they'd be the conduit back to the council to sort of make sure that all of those activities are happening logically, working together. It was a no cost to council, or the proposal. The report that will go to council will go in a bit more detail, but the way it works in Singleton is essentially their only cost is their liability insurance, which they get a sponsor for that. They'll be looking to do a similar thing here. So it's not a cost to council, but they work outside of council. But essentially, they local make those activities across the Shire, and we'll go to them. It just makes it a bit easier to, keep on top of all of that to make sure that things are working together, particularly when it gets to grant funding opportunities and other things like that. They can work there for the Shire to identify the opportunities to work with those groups. So it was all very positive. I thought there was no real downside from one.
Mr. Chair, it's very important to know this is not to go against council parks and gardens, this is to work with them. So it'll be, they won't be going and doing their own thing. They'll be working through the organiser. But that's Marywar too, if they wish to be involved. This lady will be in touch with Marywar and ask for people to go on the committee. That's the Upper Hunter Shire tidy towns.
What's the lady's name?
The lady, she's the nursery. She hasn't formed she hasn't actually formed it till we get it through council first.
I think we'll put the report to council and council support. Once we've got council support, we'll circulate the contact details and the arrangements for getting it.
That's good. But it's just important it's Upper Hunter Shire, not Scone. And the other one was the Barrington Road, which has got the landslip in the national parks and forestry. Got to the national park. We got any reports on that? Because the Mooneyham Hotel has massive concerns. The shop at Mooneyham looks like could close the doors because they holding sort of rely on coming through. And my problem as a Shire goes, which I have asked Councillor Burns to pass on to the national people, that snow season coming on, they're going to use that Carter's Road, which is the alternative down from Toomalla, and you'll come out into Barrington Village. It is highly unsatisfactory. Traffic during snow season. We've just spent even money doing that road up. I can guarantee that's going to be the route. So we need to really push to get that road open.
So through the chair, I have spoken to National Parks about this. There's no clear indication as to when it's going to be open or even what the solution is going to be to open that. It's definitely something that I would recommend taking up with our new state member when we get one to do some pushing. I believe, I'll have to check my calendar, I think it's next week, we've got our pre-snow season meeting with the various combat agencies, national parks, and the coast. So hopefully in that meeting that's going to be high on the agenda because that's going to cause a lot of additional concerns. From my understanding, because of that closure, when you have to get agencies from the other side of the range or the other, it's going to cause all sorts of headaches in that season. That's expecting a lot of snow this season. So, I may have more of an update after that meeting.
So you really push that because they're going to have to close that other Carter's Road.
Carter's Road, what remember Carter's Road?
Polyfogle.
Yeah, that's right. We talked about Polyfogle. Like we've just been up there and graded our section from Toomalla up to Polyfogle, down the Big Nirvana, right to round to North Carter's. I spoke to Peter Kipper at length about that, and it's great. We were talking to Jen from National Parks, and she said, look, it's not your section, there may be a smaller section down in the Gloucestershire Council. So number one is we need to go on to Gloucester or mid-coast these days and find out where that section is. That road is, that was our preferred route to go to Gloucester. It's a local road, away, so that Barrington Forest got the nod. So that's what's holding that up at the moment. We're not advertising to use that road as an alternative way to Gloucester because of the concerns of the national parks or what's in Gloucestershire Council, but we can find out what's happening over in Gloucester. I don't mind going that way. You've been in Pickle Barney Sevens.
Just keep in mind that we've actually had some landslips there ourselves in this recent rain event, or back in March. So yeah, we've had to go out and clean those up.
Yeah, I mean, that's not, we don't want to advertise that alternative route because that'll slow any kind of works to the taking attention away from the fact that they should be opening that section of road. It's on the gravel road. I don't really understand this. I go up there to see how bad that slip is and how they're going to fix it. But they're talking over the wireless a couple of million or something like that, you know, and I just want to dig out and replace.
So that's what I'm saying, Mr. Chair, our powers be telling us the truth, so we need to put some more pressure on.
Yes.
As Phil said. I'm thinking if Mr. Johnson was here, there'd be more rattling of the can going on now.
Yeah.
And I said, I haven't driven up there look at the statement, but remembering we've got the same issue on 358.
Oh, yeah. True.
It's a lot bigger scale.
Yeah. You can actually drive to Polycode, which Jamie was up the other day. You can go right through to this site. You can actually visit this site where it is. So maybe pay one day, quickly duck up and have a quick look with National Parks and Wildlife.
I think we should be having, someone should be having a look for ourselves.
Yeah, then you should push it.
And push it with these policies.
Yeah. But they're not going to open up without much traffic on it, you know, unless it's spiral. That's the issue. It's dangerous.
Another one, Mr. Chair, our drainage crew. I've had reports of the 2 Muller Road, which we've just spent a heap of money on, grading it. Have we done the drainage? Right, so here's our problem again. We've just spent a heap of money on the Rugel and the back road to Singleton. Have we done the drainage? Got an email this week to say, thanks very much for getting the road graded, but the water's just pouring down the road.
Why?
Because the drainage.
Is it because the pipes are blocked, or is it because I don't understand why? Is it because we didn't cut table drains in? I'd have to go and have a look.
I imagine the pipes up 2 Muller have been like it for years. So I imagine they're blocked because we're going to go back with excavator and clean them. I imagine the back road to Singleton through Rugel, I imagine it's exactly the same. So again, I mean, we're chasing our tail. We spent all this money on grading the road. And the storms last Thursday runs straight down the centre.
Yeah, an excavator won't clean the pipes. They're blocked. I mean, you need a jetty plant.
We
A shovel and a crowbar will clean the gravel around the inverted pipe. We need to look at. So we're actually really working on this at the moment as we speak today. So we'll need to go up tomorrow and have a good look and take photographs, find out what's happening with this stuff and get back.
This is again, Mr. Chair, is pushing the barrel on our depot. It's so important that we get that money through that depot because we're just wasting money. The graders, the fumes are still in the air up there off the exhaust and the roads are back to the centre.
Yeah, I just don't understand why they would.
I don't know, I haven't been able to have a look.
I think you'll find it's mainly the drainage structures that are failing. They're blocked. We have sent crews up there. We've tried a couple of methods to clean them out. So basically, they're chock block. They're full. We've put augers up them. We've used jetters.
Probably cheaper on a gravel network like that, 4 metres wide to pull them out and put them back in again. Pull them out, we've got things in place that we're going to look at. If it's simply a matter of block pipes, like small pipes, 450 or whatever, we're not going to put 450s in our rural network anymore. We decide to go 600s on any kind of reasonable road or anything that's a minimum size pipe 600 or 450. We're still determined to improve this. Just got to go up and have a look. We can sit here and talk all day about why these couple of roads. Not 2 Muller. Barrier Forest Road blocks up because of all the bloody rocks that came in. You know, just a rocky cutting. Have to somehow deal with that over time. But the works up in Rugel is obviously just silt, clay, no table drains and block pipes. So a good example of what we're trying to improve.
We do have inspection because it's very hard to explain them that just to fix the road and no sooner we're gone.
So on the flip side of that, I guess, is that your 2 crews are about the same dollar amount per day. So we can crack the grader off and send an excavator up there. But I guarantee you're going to get more complaints about the roads not being graded than a drain not being cleaned out.
but depends if you just spent 2 months up there, which we have, and I might have to go for a drive back up. We spent 2 months there with a grader crew at 3,500 a day, if they're there all the time, just grading and maintenance.
Yep.
Now, went back up there now and found out that they haven't even left, and we've got to go back and do another fortnight or 3 weeks. It's not money well spent. Oh, look, I don't know, that's why the budget's so important, we get you more money.
Maybe we pull these pipes out and put small concrete causeways there, like, yeah, there's a number of ways we have to look at doing something in the situation. In those isolated areas, that we don't get back to for 12 months, you know, so if they're a grade 1 road, we go back twice a year. If they're 2, 3, and 4, we don't see them for 18 months, we don't see them for 12 months. We have to look at another way of playing this road.
See, we haven't really discussed it before, but not sure in the hilly country, but the flatter country, we can use stabilised causeways with rat walls either side. We've done that out on Ridgelands Road. There was a pipe out there that had failed every time we got a rain event. We pulled them out and put this stabilised causeway in. Hasn't failed since. So,
That's stabilised in the structure.
no. So,
Rocks on the side.
no, it was concrete rat wall. So 300 thick wall, 500 deep, concrete beams either side, stabilised the centre of it and then sealed over it. Yeah, so the stabilisation was only 200 deep, cement stabilisation. Yep, and then, yeah, seal.
I think it goes back to the conversation we had yesterday, Sam, where we need to really clearly document what our process is. It might be different in different terrains, but we need a process where we can say to the community, this is how we treat this road. If it's a drainage issue that combines with grading, we do both. If it's only grading, we don't need to do drainage in certain areas, that's fine. But I worry that if we've got a process where we're grading and it's being degraded several weeks after because the drainage is failing, then we're not probably been optimal in our process. So again, it's part of the process that we all talked about yesterday about getting those practices down pat and then following it through.
And what you'll find, it's probably not necessarily always the drainage, it'll be the quality of the gravel on the road as well.
I don't know, I haven't been there,
Yeah.
but I'd suggest, I mean, it's like the photo I got yesterday from Garrandai Road, and 6 weeks since we graded it, and it's nearly a tank of bulldozers to get out.
So there's an example of quality of gravel. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
okay, I'm just saying this is it's important that we get that budget sorted.
Yep.
And freeze up to get this work done. Like when you go to Rural, we do the drainage and we do the grading. And we don't come back for 12 months.
Well, it's a good opportunity to find out why this happened, because otherwise we wouldn't get back to, we don't see a block pipe. So it has to happen tomorrow or the next day. We have to run and find out, why did this happen? Such a minimal amount of rain.
Okay, any further?
You want to come up with this, Morris, or?
Oh, mate, my calendar's pretty full.
That's okay.
You don't have any further.
Okay, what process? Seeing we've got the extra things happening at the state park and reducing that 60 days down to 50. If it was taken back, I suggest to where the brown sign is. I think that would be reasonable. Things that, so what can happen?
Oh, what we've done is the process was speeding council or traffic committee have no authority or no regulations regarding speeding or speeding requests. So we just forwarded that request to reduce it to take it to 50 from where it is.
Yes.
Up past Quigley
Street. That's it.
Quigley Street, straight to the RMS. They'll do their bid and take 29 days. There's a real reluctance to reduce speed limits from 60 to 50. They can't because or expectation the person can't drive 4 k's, 50 k's an hour. And that's why you go through Aberdeen and you see some halfway through Aberdeen changes to 60 on the blue. There's an expectation that someone can't sit on 50 k's an hour for such a long time. That's why they don't. So it's very difficult to get there reduced, but there's a case there.
Yeah, look, I accept that. No, I think that's very reasonable. I think you find it would be probably under 2 codes.
Yeah, but then you've got to go through our through their
Yeah, so back to the side, it's back in there, especially now that the facility is.
Oh, look, we're passing on, they'll do this.
Yeah, that's fine.
We've had the traffic counters a number of times, we've had the board, you know, we've proven that the trucks aren't going through there greater than 50 k's an hour. They look like they're doing 60, they're only doing 40. It's because of the size of the truck and the noise they make, so. Anyway, we've got him in there.
Okay.
And I'm still pushing for the bypass around there, but I think that's it. That's that for the other way.
Right, okay. Lopping the tree is the corner of Dutton and Mackenzie Street. There's one, you're coming down, going west down Mackenzie Street, and there's a lovely big tree on the right-hand side before you get into Dutton Street. But it certainly blocks your view until you get right out on the road. Now, there was one that was locked back at the corner of Mackenzie and Bow Street on the right going east, which was really good. It was pretty dangerous, but this is getting back to that stage. It's a very dense tree, so it really needs to be trimmed. Could that be looked at, please?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
I've already requested that, so if there's no action there, it shouldn't be too far away.
Okay, thank you. And also, can you put in there too the broken railings around number 1 Oval? Look, I know that there's in the wish list that went out, I think $15,000 to ask to upgrade that, but look, really, we're not successful. It really only needs 3 or 4 pieces of 100 by 100 put in there, which would paint them, which would alleviate that problem. Now, that business with Scott Whitten and the water there, how do you progress anything there? It needs the grader there to clean that drain out and direct it into the creek on the eastern side.
No action there today. Our graders haven't been up there.
No, but I'm saying, can it be organised that when the graders go back, that matter could be attended to? Because otherwise we're going to have to go straight down over the little the roadway and go into his house again. And the bulk of the water is coming off the side of the road because he's put in a contour bank on the top side of those tanks to direct that water right the way away. Now I know you've been talking about who owns what. However, who owns what when it gets down?
I understand what you're saying, but I think we discussed this last time, and I don't want to start doing it because basically, if Joe Blow down the road sees that we've done it for him, then we'll have to do it across the network. Now, I don't know about that, and I think you'll find the contour bank up the top has been redone since the rain event, so. That should relieve some of the issue.
It does.
Yeah.
But we can't. But the water that's flowing down the water that's flowing down the roadway has got nowhere to go except turn and go across. Go across east.
I think you'll find there's a low flow pipe on the corner there where it can go back across to the southeast.
It's not working.
Yep. Oh, look, yeah.
I look about two strips with a grader just to clean that drain out and make the small thing. It would all be done. So what I'm asking is, can that be included when the grader is back up? We can't run the grader.
No.
I think the concern, and I share Sam's concern to some degree, is if we make an exception for one property owner and do effectively what's called private works, then what's stopping every other property owner in the shop? So I need to make sure we're not setting a precedent before we do it. If we can do it some way without setting a precedent, happy to look at it, but I'm just concerned about Sam's issue about what do we do when the next property owner asks to run a grader for half an hour?
Well, I can only accept that if the water from the side of the road doesn't go across it. And that really is the issue. Now, once that goes down from the side of the road and goes across into that person's house, what happens? Because the owner has cleaned out the contour banks and the topside to stop that material from coming down, which is on his land, and takes it away. But the water off the side of that road has nowhere to go, just comes down and turns east and goes across.
So there's actually a road that goes down there. So basically, we could say that road acts as a contour, and he hasn't maintained that. So the road goes goes down on the western side of his property, and then around the back. That actually dams the northwest side. That the road that goes down past his house acts as a contour bank. So essentially what we'll be doing is building that road up to stop the water from coming over. Because cleaning out that...
You can't do that. You can't stop that table drain comes down there. It's that deep and it goes...
It's that deep on the road, but as you go further down towards where it crosses that road, it's not that deep. It'd only be 300.
It was an issue for follow-up. We'll have a look at the design.
Yeah, I think we need to attend it. We just can't, just say, well, I can't do that because someone doesn't know. I mean, the owner, when he was at the, which is on the top, I assume it's on the top side of that road, he cleaned it out, but he did it with a bulldozer because he didn't want to make a big bank there. And he said, well, can you just tidy it up with a grader? I really think that we're perhaps making a mountain out of a marble.
Noted.
Yeah, we'll have a look at it, an option.
All right.
Come back.
All good. Do we have any other questions on the last one? I did notice too, and probably I should have asked this in the D&E, moving all the development applications online. Was there any particular reason for doing that? Is that
Forced into going online.
Was it?
Yeah, there's no button planning, just said that's how they're to be lodged now.
In some cases, it might cause some difficulty anyway. All right.
That's illegal, I'm trying to assist them.
Right. Yeah, okay. All right. I'll declare the meeting closed. Thank you so much for everyone for attending.